Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet. Before I start, I should say I'm feeling a bit under the weather, so I hope my voice holds out for the duration. If not, Martin Coffin will be taking the chair. For the benefit of those watching on our YouTube channel, members of the Cabinet are present in the chamber, and these members will be voting on proposals this evening. Other members of the council are also in attendance or either in the chamber or on Microsoft Teams. And they can take part in discussions when invited to. They can ask questions, but they are unable to vote. Can I draw everyone's attention to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance on how meetings will be conducted, including the ground rules. Before we start with the formal business, we will confirm attendance of voting members by doing a roll call. Firstly, I am Matt Borson. I'm the chair of Cabinet of the Council. If I can ask Cabinet members to introduce themselves in alphabetical order, starting with Robin Betts, please.
Thank you. It's Robin Betts, Cabinet Member for Climate Change, Property and Regeneration. Thanks.
Thank you. Martin Coffin.
Martin Coffin, Deputy Leader.
Des Kears.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Cabinet Member for Community Services.
Tim Tanner.
Good evening, everyone. Cabinet Member for Finance and Housing.
And Mike Taylor.
Good evening, Cabinet Member for Planning. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I shall now ask officers to introduce themselves, starting, perhaps Alison, do you want to start on my left?
Anthony Garnett, I'm Head of Service. I look after licensing, customer service and community safety.
Thank you, Anthony. Alison?
Alison Paris, Principal Democratic Services Officer.
Damien?
Good evening, Damien Roberts, Chief Executive.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Ian Sanfield, Director of Central Services.
You, Eleanor?
Good evening, Eleanor Hoyle, Director of Planning, Housing and Environmental Health.
Will?
Good evening, William Waite, Benefits and Welfare Manager.
Karen Shelton, Director of Finance and Transformation.
Ganesh?
Ganesh Thangraja, Head of IT.
And online we should have Jeremy Whitaker.
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Whitaker, Strategic Economic Regeneration Manager.
Robert Stiles.
Good evening, everybody. Robert Stiles, Director of Street Scene, Leisure and Technical Services.
Stuart Edwards.
Good evening, Stuart Edwards, Head of Administrative and Property Services.
And Dean Radmore.
Good evening, everyone. Dean Radmore, Tunbridge Town Centre Programme Manager.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to all officers who are in attendance this evening. For all other members, if you perhaps just introduce yourselves as and when you speak, that would be extremely kind. Right, turning on to the main part of the agenda. Agenda item 1 is the ground rules I referred to. Agenda item 2 are apologies for absence, but we have a full house, so no apologies. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Any Cabinet member got any interest to declare? Shakes of the head all round. None there. Agenda item 4 is to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Cabinet held on the 11th of February. These are available on page 15. Can I have your agreement to sign those minutes? That is agreed unanimously. Thank you, and I shall do so shortly. We come on to executive key decisions, starting with agenda item 5, which is the UK Shared Prosperity Funds 2025-26. This is at page 23 of the agenda pack and was considered by the Finance, Regeneration and Property Scrutiny Select Committee at its meeting of the 25th of February 2025. Jeremy, as author of the report, do you wish to add anything?
Only really, Chairman, to say that it was well received at that Scrutiny Select Committee. And just by way of an update regarding Chapter 7, we have this afternoon heard that we have been allocated some Rural England Prosperity Fund for next financial year as well. We don't know the amount yet, but we will find out in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good news this afternoon, as you say, on the Rural England Prosperity Fund. Robin, this is in your portfolio. Anything to add?
No, it's a good news story at the end of the day. I know it's been reduced, the funding, but in essence, we're carrying on with the great schemes that we've already continued with. We continue with the great schemes that we've always completed the last round. The green business grants, which are great, improving efficiency of businesses, of course, and reducing carbon. So all in all, good news story, and even more welcome news is the West Kent Rural Grant Scheme. I look forward to seeing how much we're actually going to get for that. Thank you.
Yeah, quite, Robin. Thank you. As always with cabinet meetings, I'll come to members who aren't in cabinet first. Then I'll leave cabinet members to listen to their contributions and then add any thoughts of their own. Although I don't actually see any hands in the chamber or online. And neither do I see any cabinet members' hands for that matter. But I think that reflects the fact this is a good news story in this report. So page 23 has got the recommendations on it. They being that the proposed UK Shared Prosperity Fund programme for 2025-26 be approved. That's at table 1 of the report. And that delegated authority is given to Jeremy in liaison with Robin to make minor amendments to the programme that would be in the event of an underspend. And there's a third recommendation at the top of page 2024 that relates to the Rural England Prosperity Fund 25-26, and that confirms the use of any additional money rounds of the West Kent Rural Grant Scheme, as Jeremy and Robin said. Can I have a proposer for that, Martin, and a seconder? Robin, you can second. Can we agree that's unanimously, Cabinet? We can. Super. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeremy, for your work in all of this too. And that is the UK Share Prosperity Fund at page 23. So we'll come on to page 31, which is the Local Development Scheme. This was considered at the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee of the 12th of February, and its recommendation is at page 31 of the agenda. Mike, as Cabinet Member for Planning, do you wish to add anything to the debate at the committee?
Nothing to add to the actual recommendation of the report. I think this is an apposite moment to recall that several items on the agenda tonight are extremely time constrained. And I think it would be good if we offered our thanks to members of other parties across the council who've forgone their right to call in, so we can get these approved and done. And I think it bodes well for the future of this council if that sort of consensus could be reached by dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I absolutely concur with those comments, and obviously have asked that political group leaders agree to use the provisions to waive all-in procedures so that this particular item can be submitted to government by the 6th of March, as the government have requested. I should say it's they who've requested the 6th of March, not us. So I concur with those comments. Eleanor, did you want to add anything to the? Oh.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any member wish to speak? David?
Just to say, I agree with all that, and it's most important we get on with all of this. Oh.
Absolutely. Thank you. I don't see any other hands. Cabinet, any additional comments? Nope. Superb. Okay. In that case, we've got at page 31 the recommended local development scheme for approval. Can I have a proposer? That's Mike. I'm happy to second. Can we agree that unanimously, Cabinet? That is agreed unanimously. Thank you all very much. We now skip ahead to page 57 of the agenda from the same meeting. We have the local plan budgets proposal. We'll see at the bottom of page 57 that we've got 4 recommendations. I won't read them all out. Hopefully members can read them for themselves. Given this is both local plan and budget, I shall ask Mike and then Kim whether you add anything. Mike?
A good report. I fully agree with it. But I'd like to reserve the right to come back for more money if we need it. Thank you.
Kim, your comments on that?
And I'd like to say the answer will be no.
Super. Thank you all. David?
Thank you. I was pleased to see these recommendations. Be interesting to see what comes out of the green belt and the and the other studies. And again, let's get on with it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other member wish to speak? No, I don't see anyone. Cabinet either. Great. Right. We've got 4 recommendations at the end of page 57. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Eleanor. I should have brought you in earlier. Go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Borton. I just wanted to confirm for members that some of you will be aware that we made a bid to one of the government's funding pots relating to some of the work relating to the changes in the MPPF. And I'm pleased to report that we've been successful in our funding bid. So we've received £70,000 towards Greenbelt studies. And so that will help with some of the costs that are identified in this report. We do have another outstanding application in with government at the moment, so fingers crossed we may be successful there as well.
And thank you, Eleanor, and thank you for pulling me back to make that point, because it'll please Kim that we don't have to go to her to ask for another 70,000, which is good news all round. Great, right? We've got those 4 recommendations I referred to earlier. I won't read them out because they're the same as on the papers and from what the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee recommended to us. Can I have a proposer, please? Mike, I'm happy to second. Can we agree that unanimously, Cabinet? That is agreed. That is agreed unanimously. Please excuse my voice. Right. Agenda item 8 is the start of our executive non-key decisions. This is the temporary accommodation charging policy. Will, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. So we have a report proposing a new temporary accommodation charging policy. The council has a duty to offer any resident who has recently been made homeless a place in temporary accommodation, which is arranged by our housing team, who will offer the resident a place in that accommodation and with it a rental charge, which is often a nightly rate. The accommodation that we use is sourced from one of 3 places. It can be obtained from the private sector, can be a housing association property, or crucially, it can be what's known as a council-owned property. And for the purposes of this, that means where the council owns the freehold or a lease of more than 10 years. Many of the people that go into temporary accommodation are also claiming housing benefit. And at the time of writing this report, of 141 people placed into temporary accommodation, 122 were actually on housing benefit. So it's quite a high proportion. When housing benefit is paid by us, the council can reclaim the money by way of housing benefit subsidy from the DWP. However, depending on the circumstances of the claim, what type of property it is, and a whole multitude of other factors, the rate that we can claim that back varies. For most of temporary accommodation, the rate that we can claim it back is actually quite low. It's set at a level of 90% of the local housing allowance rate for January 2011. What that means in practice is that the 30th percentile of the rent for a point in time 14 years ago is the rate that we can claim back. So that's a very low rate and therefore not financially advantageous to the council. So we've identified an opportunity for this tranche of council-owned property where housing benefit subsidy can actually be claimed at a higher rate, therefore allowing us to charge a rent that is more in keeping with current market conditions. The only caveat to this is that we have to charge a rent that's considered reasonable in order to claim a higher rate of housing benefit subsidy, but that is a significant opportunity for the council to maximise income in this way. The rents that we set for these properties will always pass the reasonableness test in the sense that we'll be taking into account current market rental values, and also the general ethos of temporary accommodation schemes is that the accommodation should be affordable. So therefore we will qualify for that higher rate of housing benefit subsidy. So the new proposed charging policy is at Annex 1. It sets out the circumstances in which the council can adopt the different way of charging for these properties, as well as cementing the existing way for other properties. And then the recommendation in the report is at paragraph 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. That's extremely helpful and very clear. Kim, as it's your portfolio, do you wish to add anything?
Thank you, Matt. Really, this just falls in line with our intentions to improve the way we deliver temporary accommodation. We're just looking to work more efficiently and hopefully bring our charging policy up to date. As Will has said, it's way behind the times at the moment. And housing and finance will be working together to make this happen. Thank you to both departments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any comments from members? Don't see it. Chamber, Cabinet, anything to add to the report? No, I don't see anything. Right. The recommendation is to approve the new temporary accommodation charging policy. Before we get there, can I just emphasise everything Will said about the importance of this? Will help a number of our most needy families. So I'm really grateful for such a clear policy. Thank you. As Kim said, can I have a proposer, please? Kim, okay, happy to second. Can we agree that unanimously? That is agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Will, for you and team in finance and the team in housing's work behind this. Right, we'll move on to agenda item 9. This is the antisocial behaviour enforcement team review, which is at page 91 of the agenda, and this looks at the 2025 operation. Anthony, do you want to say some words first?
Thank you, Chair. The report before Cabinet is to consider the work of the antisocial behaviour enforcement team, which ran from April to September in 2024, and in the recommendations, look at what we can do in 2025. The enforcement team ran between March and September, which is traditionally the highest level of antisocial behaviour that's reported. And as of the 30th of September, we had some 456 reports coming in from the team. I'm very pleased to say that the trial, according to the Kent Police stats, resulted in Tunbridge and Malling having a reduction in ASB of nearly 33% against the total Kent and Medway of 8.11%. So during this period of time, the team were out there having a positive impact on the community. They were high profile, they were visible, they were engaging with the young people, the residents, the businesses, and more importantly, the visitors as well coming into the borough. Young people were particularly targeted to be engaged with. And Chair, you'll remember one of your early council meetings, you made reference to the team finding a midnight game of football up at Kings Hill, where alcohol was confiscated and words were given, advice, shall we say. One of the benefits of the 2024 operation was the amount of fly tipping that the team were able to report in on the just 3-word strategy, which resulted in 80 incidents being reported to waste services, which was really useful. As far as the cost for the pilot of 2024, it was just under 63,000, and that comprised of 1 supervisor and 2 officers. The strategy and thoughts for 2025 is very much to have 2 teams of 2 for consideration, so that the teams can not only work in different parts of the borough, but if we have particular focus on a certain area, they can do an evening shift and an afternoon shift, that we can have them working at a much longer time period. On the 4th of March, Chair, the Cabinet members discussed the allocation of funds under the UK Prosperity Fund, where an allocation of 45,000 was approved for this. Not stopping there, we decided to engage with the parish councils and town councils on focused increased activity proposals for 2025, where we would have service level agreements in place for those parish councils and town councils that were able to fund this operation. And I'm very pleased to say that and thank those parish councils and town councils who have committed so far. And we are still engaging at this stage with a number of parish councils, because it is not too late to have an influence on this operation. I would just say, Chair, that on the recommendations, the time span for this year's operation is proposed to run from May 7th to November the 2nd. And the reason we've done that is that there was a huge amount of ASB activity around the fireworks, and we wanted to capture that within the time period and work with the police to ensure that we have the presence, the advice, and the strategies in place. Chair, the recommendations are at 3.1.
Anthony, thank you ever so much. Des, as it's your portfolio, do you want to add anything?
The Cabinet members and officers will be pleased to note that I'm not going to rehearse. They're all smiling at me. What I normally say about this, just to say, it's been an overwhelming successful pilot scheme. I strongly endorse and support the fact that we run it again this year with 4 officers to give us, as Anthony says, more coverage of the borough. And I don't think I need to say any more, only that it's extended to November the 2nd to cover the period of Halloween, which we saw some pretty significant issues in Kings Hill and Stodland, to name just but 2, and that's we wanted to cover it. But remember, this is in support of Kent Police, not replacing Kent Police.
Absolutely, thank you very much, Des. Any questions from members? Any? I'll come to Cabinet members. Mike.
You're just referring to the point about parishes. My own parish has earmarked a contribution. This is very much a cautious toe in the water. I can't see them objecting if the scheme does start to work. Greater contribution in the future.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to Borough Green Parish Council too. Robin?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was just going to refer to the league table for Kent, and I mean, it is a tremendous result. You know, a whopping minus 32.6%. We're leaders across Kent for reducing ASB. So I just thought I'd highlight that, and obviously Desi's team that's achieved that. So it's a brilliant result. In terms of funding by parish councils, for Rootham, it's on the agenda tomorrow night. I do hope to put it over there to talk to that to help Des out. But so it looks to be that more parish councils are coming forward to fund on this scheme. So, and we look forward to many more. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, yeah.
Absolutely wrong of me not to say, and you mentioned it in your leaders' speech at the full council meeting, the fact that we are being recognised for a national award, which will be presented tomorrow night in London. And let's hope that, fingers crossed, that we get some success there as well, because it is quite innovative to Kent. And I know it's good because a lot of other boroughs across the county and districts are seeking to do exactly the same. But we are still the leaders of this.
Absolutely, Des. I was going to say so myself. We have a very exciting evening tomorrow up in London, where we will see whether the antisocial behaviour enforcement team is got a gold medal nationally for its work. So we wait and we'll see what happens. Right, as Anthony said, at the bottom of page 91, we have the first recommendation, and that asks us whether we should recommission the antisocial behaviour team for 2025. I'm going to assume from contributions so far the answer to that is yes. Whether the team should, and unless it lasts until the 2nd of November rather than October as per the papers. The second part of that recommendation is whether the team should be comprised of 3 or 4 officers. Des, your recommendation is 4. Cabinet are happy with that. I'll come to take the vote in a short while. The third part references the funding arrangements for 37,000 as agreed by Cabinet on the 10th of December and 45,000 as agreed about 15 minutes ago from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And that funding from parish or town councils will be deducted from the allocation for the Shared Prosperity Fund contribution. And then the final thing is that it's recommended that Anthony Garnett undertake the required invitation to quote in accordance with contract procedure rules and to appoint a successful contractor with Des in his capacity as Cabinet member for community services. Can I have a proposal for that, please? Des? Okay, I'm happy to second. Can we agree that unanimously, Cabinet? We can agree that unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Anthony, for all your work on this, and that's of the community safety team too. Super. That's agenda item 9 at page 91. Complete. We now hop on to page 103, where we come on to decisions taken by cabinet members. I will leave off the cabinet decisions that we took and just focus on the decisions that were taken by cabinet members outside of meetings. The top one is the Hayton Country Park Management Plan consultation draft. That was taken by Des. Des, anything to add to that?
Just to say that the management plan covering the previous 5 years has been seen as Excel. It's a real jewel in the crown of Tunbridge and Morning, Hayton Country Park. It's always been there for Green Flag Awards, Country Park accreditation. It's seen over 328,000 in investments, and all because it's got a vibrant management plan. So this is why we took the decision to do it again, basically.
Super. Thank you very much. Kim, do you want to take the next 3 applications for reduction of council tax liability together?
Kim, yes, only to say that great consideration goes into each application, and wherever possible, we will award a tax reduction. But if it's not justified, then we have to make the harsh decision to refuse, and that's been the case with these 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And then the final decision is one by Robin regarding new lease arrangements at 47 High Street, Tunbridge. Robin?
It's as it is on the tin, new lease arrangements for a cake shop. So simple as that.
Close in times, and you'll see me there often. Thank you. I don't see any other questions there. Right, we move on to the notice of forthcoming key decisions. That was published earlier today. So hopefully everyone has seen that. Questions, which is good. Agenda item 12 are urgent items in part 1, in which we do not have any. So I'll move on to agenda item 13, which I regret to say to anyone watching on YouTube, this is a point in which we have to ask that the YouTube stream is stopped, because the remainder of the meeting must be discussed in private due to the risk of information